Now let's dive into the displacement maps. I'm going to copy and paste the same thing. Call it dispdev and go to my layers. Now you may notice that these layers that we haven't dealt with 8-bit versus 16-bit up to this point. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but I want to convert these first. But before I start converting, I'm going to go to my display properties and go to my background and make sure the top and bottom are at 50% gray. So I have a basis of comparison to what 0 will be. So I can take this breakup, delete that, because it's purely for color. And then the crack detail I can actually leave as black. Now this trim color, I want to take off the levels. And I want to increase the value so it sits in the same realm as the background. It's okay if there's slight variation. That's fine. That's pretty good. But this crack detail, actually, I want to re-level out. I don't want to have so much of this detail in there. Something like that. And for the base, I take this levels, the value of here, and bring it to about there. And this is going to displace nicely because we want that rawhide feel. So I'm good with that. I'm going to cache this layer. Moving on to the black leather. Going to take this levels off. And create new levels. Bring this up. And I actually want to invert this for a second to see if it gets what I'm looking for. So this may be a bit better because I want this to puff out. And these pieces will puff out a bit. I think that's going to read the way we want, because without the invert, the way the texture currently is, it's going to read the opposite. So I want to invert that so we get the look that we're going for. It's still a bit dark, so bring that up slightly. There we go. Moving on to red leather strap. So this embroidery, we're going to do a luminance on. Obviously don't need it to be color. We do want it to be brighter though. That's good because we want it to emboss outwards. Crack detail's fine, and we're going to go here and delete that contrast, and we're just going to brighten this up slightly. Like so. And then we're going to go back to the embroidery and brighten that up. So with these extra layers, it's very, very easy to get what we want. Let's see what this... So this crack detail is contributing a lot to the darkening down here, which I'm okay with because it is an area that is bending. So to have that's kind of serendipitous that we got it to match up like that, because that's going to give a nice detail that it's been bent more times than once. So I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm going to cache this layer. Moving on to the purple leather. Going to... Let's delete that levels. And you see these cracks in here? We want to invert this. So those cracks go in because right now they're white. So we're going to go in here and do an invert. Like so. We can take this color balance off. We don't need it anymore. And we take the value of this down. Like so. I'm going to copy that HSV and do it in here as well. And delete this one to replace it. Like so. Delete the color balance and then add the invert. I mean, for all intent and purposes, we could just merge these, so that's an option as well. But whenever possible, I try not to merge anything just in case. Better be safe than sorry. It's good to go. Elvish Ruins. I'm actually going to delete this completely because we do not need it in the displacement. And then as for the gold, I'm going to take that color balance off. I'm going to take the saturation off. And this gold base, I'm going to desaturate completely. And then I'm actually taking the stainless steel off completely, because we don't want that in the displacement. So this leaves us with what we have here, and it's not exactly the texture that I want. Let's match the background pretty good. So it's not exactly the texture I want because it's a leather. So I'm going to delete that. But instead, actually, to make sure this is 100% right, I'm going to remove the adjustment stack and paint these 50% gray. so I know for a base it's even. There we go. And I think I didn't do this properly. Yeah, sorry. My top is a little bit lighter, so I'm going to take that down. So, my bad. I'm going to have to readjust some of these things. This black leather for one. And then this red leather strap. I'm actually going to take the crackling, these two details off first. So make sure, yeah, that's pretty good. I'm actually going to invert this because I want some of these scratches to go the opposite way. There we go. And then the embroidery back on top, which is good, and the crackling detail, which is good. And then this shoulder pad, go back in, and I'm just going to do, because it's relatively the same intensity, I'm just going to quickly do a brightness and knock the whole thing down. Like so. And recache. And we're going to have to fix the purple leather. So as you can see with the 50% gray background, it gives us a very clear indication of what range we need to be in. And this is very important to try to stay in that 50% range. And it gives you a good springboard into what you want to do in terms of how intense you want the details to go, how deep you want the grooves to be, and how high you want the bumps to go. So let's go back to this purple leather, uncache this, and on top of everything, let's just take it down. Like so. Good. I'm going to cache that layer. So for the gold, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a warble. It's going to be a fractal noise that I'm going to warble out so we can get some slight undulation, because I want it to feel a little bit like it's been handmade, a little hammered, but nothing overtly obvious. So we're going to do a cloud, like so. And that's pretty much doing, yep, it's doing all the pieces we want. And then with this cloud, we're going to adjust some stuff here. I'm going to adjust the roughness and the size. And then I want to change the intensity. I don't want it to be this rough. So I'm going to go from 0.6 to 0.4. So there's a nice range. And that's going to give a nice undulation, especially in the reflection. And it's going to give a nice hammered look. And there you have it. Our displacement maps are done. And again, we can always change the size of this. So if we want it to be finer, or we want it to be broader, like so. Very easy to do. So I want you guys to go through and paint your armor and clothing. Utilize some of these techniques here. And I know I'm not going to go into weathering these things up, so if you guys have any specific weathering questions, we can dive into it in the webinars or offline. And yeah, good luck with the painting. I'm just going to set this back to the base. And yeah, keep posting your stuff, and we'll take a look at this stuff in the end of the week. So good luck.